Good evening, and welcome to Speakeasy News. I'm your hostess with the leastest, Amara. Oh, we're here, we're back. We didn't promo the show this week, so it's just gonna be Lizzie and I talking shit to each other until somebody shows up, maybe, perhaps, possibly.
Well, this suit burns better is here already.
Hey, hi, hello.
Yes, hello. So nice to have you.
we've built enough of a following that one poor soul is just gonna be like, I'm gonna give them a view. We're just gonna let this happen.
So what did you, fashion aside, what did you think of the
Yes.
episode last night?
I thought it was quite an interesting one. Spoiler alerts right off the bat, we did learn pretty early that Victoria Scone has been medically advised not to return to the competition, so we have fully Eureka O'Hara'd Drag Race UK.
Now-
But it was... Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that she was medically advised, or do you think that RuPaul's insurance advised her?
Oh, I'm sure it was medically advised under RuPaul's insurance. I'm sure it was one of those things where it's just like, well, we've already made so much history by letting an AFAB contestant on that we can't afford a liability under that.
Yeah. We've rewritten queer history.
Yeah,
Us.
we've rewritten queer history that we were perpetuating. So look at us. Look at all the things that we're doing. We're going to preserve this so we can bring her back so it's an even bigger deal next time.
Oh, God. Yeah, milk it.
Yeah, right?
Well, we had two different runway looks,
We did.
so they're not making it easy for you.
Nope, I cannot do one of these that has less than like 12.
Oh, you know what else? What other look you're giving tonight is like April O'Neil going for like a new hair color.
Yes, this is my April O'Neil blazer. I've been called this before.
Oh, stop! Really?
Yeah, I have. No, fully.
Oh, I love it.
There's a pair of like bright purple pants that I wore in drag, just like with this. And one of my friends was just like, "Do I need to find you like 4 Ninja Turtles? What's the deal?"
Yes, please. Oh my
I was
God.
just like,
the
as
Ninja
long
Turtles
as they
were
still
hot.
have pizza, sign me the fuck up.
Oh, well, with that, should I take you over to our fashion slideshow?
Let's get this going.
Boom!
Okay, so they had to do 2 runways this week, as you said. The first one, the theme was Happy Camper, and the second one was stuff that they had to make out of camping equipment. So, first up, we have Miss Crystal Versace in a girl guide, another all-green girl guide look. And I was saying this to Lizzie before we started, but this is her second all-green ensemble. This was giving me very much like Violet Chachki does Girl Scouts. And I think this is like clean. I think it is... It's behind the green screen. One of Lizzie's dogs is here and has opinions on this outfit as well. Not sure what, but it has opinions. So yeah, I was thinking that this is interesting, but interesting because of the choice of fabric. I think this sort of like high gloss, I believe it's some sort of like satin or something, is an attempt to try and elevate a very classic kind of like 1950s Girl Scout silhouette, but I would have liked to see something done a little more different with the cut of it to match the quality of the fabric. I think it would have been a bit more interesting that way. I love a little hat. So I do like the beret, I like the styling of it. I think the classic sort of like 1940s vintage hair is very cute, but I don't know, I just wish that there was a little bit more to this. I think the fact that there is this the sort of like sash with the badges on it is the only thing that really reads drag. And if you're going for something that is a very well-established kind of like character and caricature and sort of like trope, I would have liked to seen a little more homage paid to the kind of like the source material of it. But all in all, I mean, it's clean. It's an A-line skirt that hits like at a nice place on the leg. Stockings are a little odd. I believe they are also green, but they are reading a little sort of blue-black in the lighting.
I'm glad you said about the cut where the dress comes. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah, it's really well balanced, the sort of like upper and lower part of the garment. I just like, I wish there was a little bit more drag to this.
Yeah.
Because the points of interest for me are kind of like chest up. There's the sash, there's a little necktie, there's the hair, there's the hat, and then the skirt and the legs sort of fade into the background for me, so it feels a little unbalanced in terms of where the details are placed.
Right. Okay. Let's see here. Next up.
Next up, River Medway. In one of my favorite looks of the episode, actually. This whole thing, there's sort of like black mesh. She had a mosquito net around her face, and then the whole of the garment is made out of maps of some variety. I don't know how she did it, but I think this is really cool. I think this is a really interesting sort of like abstract take on. This feels very Schitt's Creek to me. This sort of like
yeah.
Moira Rose-esque. Like, this is how we're going on a hike. This is like, look at me, I'm well-traveled. I get a story from this, and that's something that I really like. I do wish that the skirt was a little bit different. I just wish that there was some more of it, because it's very high cut on one side, and then sort of like drapes around the leg. It's very sort of fitted. And there's all of this sort of like detailing in the top half of the garment. There's a lot of like pleating and ruching. And these sort of like puffed, sort of like a gauntlet parts of the sleeve. I wish that had been reflected a little bit more in the lower part of the garment, but as a concept and also just like how this is styled, I like this a lot.
That is such a great shot. I was like, yes!
That's fantastic. Yeah, it is kind of fashion wear in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
Oh,
So here we
yes. I thought the same thing.
Here we have Kitty Scott Claus in another Girl Scout look. We are going to see a couple more of these. This is a much more, I think, like, honest, sort of like accurate pull from the original source material than we saw with Crystals, in terms of the like color palette of it, the way that it is just styled, the way that it's sort of like put together, and I think it personally reads better. Kitty's done a really good job of like bringing these characters to the runway, and this was a really good example for it. She had another prop that was a map that on the back said Kitty Scott Lost, which I think was also fantastic. But in terms of the garment itself, we were talking about this earlier as well. I like the pops of neon against this kind of like neutral base fabric. I feel like with this, the sash goes into a belt, which then kind of like leads your eye down, and you can see some of the petticoat underneath the skirt, which then ties into the socks, which then ties into the shoes. So everything feels a bit more deliberately placed. There's a couple more things that make my eye travel on this garment. The face in this screenshot is absolutely incredible, and I want to make it my Grindr profile just for fun. All right. Charity Case as a demonic rabbit, or axe murderer bunny. Here we're seeing another example of Charity's like really extreme character work. This is something that she's kind of built her social media following off of, is these really like high impact, very narrative driven visuals. And I didn't really follow where this one came from. I get that it was supposed to be this kind of like axe murderer bunny. She also, you can't quite see it in this, but the fabric over her shoulder is another one of these Girl Scout badges. She has another little skirt on. This one didn't really do it for me. And I think this is, I'm kind of like leaning into your concerns, Lizzie, of are we just gonna see more masks from Charity? Are we just gonna see more sort of like facial pieces and bodysuits and things like that? Because this doesn't feel like it fits the brief for me.
Yeah, me
How do you feel?
either. I feel like this had 100 different things going on all at once. Like, we've got titties out, and we've got painted on black, like painted with black on white muscles, which then
Mm,
really flattens it. Then we had a bare bum with blood handprints on it. And then we had an axe and and a wig on the bunny. Like it just, and then we get down to the pants, which are these like straight cut fun fur pants that then like stop at the ankle with like a fluvog and nails on it. It's like, I don't know. Aside from it just being scattered and all over the place, the bottom half makes me sad.
yeah, I feel like this felt to me like, you know, shock factor for shock factor's sake.
Yeah, this feels like a really fun costume for like an event or something. Like like you said, very, very high impact looks. But when it's like trying to meet a specific goal, it just high impact can't just be it.
I feel like there was a lot of like confessional narrative work being done to try and sell that this fit this theme. All right. Theresa May. I did not understand this look. I still don't really understand this look. Apparently it was supposed to be a like rock climber that then had feathers attached to it.
I have no idea.
I
Where rock
also have no
climber?
idea.
I like I feel like she feels really good in this, and there are a lot of cool ideas here. Like I love that this little mini dress is kind of like a windbreaker, and it had the sort of pull zipper, the big ring pull zipper that you get on sports garments.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I feel like the thing that I wish was different about this, and a thing that may have like sold it a little bit more, is that the sort of like the puffed element of the sleeves, I wish was like read more as a jacket and was either like super oversized and had a train, or was like gone entirely. I
Yeah,
feel like that would
those
have cleaned up the silhouette quite a bit and sort of like brought the focus into this kind of like this blue detailing that's going from her head down to the floor, because I find I get distracted by these sleeves.
Well, yeah, because my brain wants to figure out what they're attached to. Are they really a tube like that? What do they match? Why did you choose those? Like
Yeah,
I just get stuck.
they're such a different fabric from everything else that it doesn't quite feel like it belongs. It feels like it could have, like the outfit could have worked without it.
Yeah, as I'm like picturing it without it, I'm like I think you could have justified this a bit more. You know, if we can do festival looks and say that you're camping, then like this is yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
going for a rock climber, like that's a reach, and this is a really cool conceptual take on it. But I don't think that the execution was quite there. I also don't understand the knee feathers. This is like rock climber by way of Cookie Monster, which you know is a strong choice, but not my favorite thing I've seen from Theresa so far. All right, Scarlet Harlot in a sort of Katniss Everdeen Hunger Games inspired look. I think this was cool. I did not get it. I feel like if you are going to do, this is just my personal take on things that are sort of like referential to things like the Hunger Games or like post-apocalyptic things, like this looks too clean to be that. I wish that there had been some like weathering on the garments. Almost like I wish her and Charity had like had a conversation where she's like, hey, you know how to make things look kind of like worn and like world built and that kind of thing. This feels just too pristine.
Yeah, like did you fall and rip your stockings on what? On what?
Yeah.
A perfectly clean bleached floor? Like
Yeah.
give me more, mama. And also, why did you have to go and buy a toy store bow and arrow that your long ass arms can't even pull properly when,
T-Rexing.
like, honestly, just get get a prop. This sucks. I don't know. There was a lot about this I didn't like. I thought I didn't get why it was goth. I didn't get why she had like quarterback stripes on her face.
I think that was just left over from the mini challenge, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that like I did like this hair on her. I
Yeah.
think this like Joan Jett mullet was a good look for her. But everything else, yeah, it was just too clean.
Yeah, it's way more Thunderdome than Happy Camper. You know, if I said last night that had I seen her maybe do this in like camo and like olive
Mm-hmm.
drab colors, I would have been a lot more into it, I think. And I think it would have sold more as camper.
I agree if the fabrics had been different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vanity Milan. I did not understand this.
No.
I I did like the coat, the sort of like construction of it and the shapes of it and like how oversized it was. I really liked the movement on it, but pairing that with a fuchsia metallic cat suit and these two travel bags, like utility satchels that fall in a very strange place. Like it's not quite a skirt, it's not quite a short, and it doesn't seem to like match with any other part of the outfit. There's a lot going on here, and it feels confused to me.
I think that, and the necklace, it looks like those evil eye kind of things, like a bunch
Oh
of
yeah.
glass bead things. Like I really thought that that was mishmashed in, and I felt pretty strongly that, like, if you want to match like a color in your outfit and like have this continuous boot from the outfit, unless it is a perfect fucking match, don't do it.
Yeah.
This would have been better as like a blue boot, in my opinion, like a powder blue.
Yeah, there's like no tie-in for the camo in any other part of the garment outside of the eyeshadow and the necklace. And
Yeah.
I do not understand what she was trying to do with this.
Yeah, the garment underneath ruins it. I feel like she could have done even like a little black dress underneath, and I would have been like, oh, cute. She made her big coat into like a tent. But
Yeah.
the pink thing, I'm like, I don't care what else you got going on. That pink is not it.
Yeah. Also, blue camo is an interesting choice.
Yeah, it always just reminds me of like dads in cargo shorts, but like man boy dads.
Man boy dads. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
specific.
You're absolutely right though.
Thank you.
Now, Lizzie told us that she had some difficulty getting a screen grab of this because Ella Vidae was selling this garment on the runway. She was moving around quite a lot. This is a great pose. Bravo. Well
Very
done.
like, huh?
Huh? So she went a very like Tarzan's Jane route with this, and I think it was quite successful. I liked the color of it. I liked the nude and these pops of purple in like the eyeshadow, the belt, and this like petticoat underskirt that we saw, in addition to the butterfly net that she has. I thought it was different from what everyone else had done. And so I think that she scored points by going in that direction. It does feel again, this sort of like high reflective satin does tend to read, especially when there's a lot of like lights around, as kind of costumey because it's highly reflective. And so it looks sort of like shiny, and it does kind of like cheapen it a little bit because it looks a little bit plasticky, I find. But I like that she committed to like the choice of shoe. She has little gloves on. I think there's a lot of like a good attention to detail here.
Yeah, it's a shame what the point you make about the fabric is so true, and it's a shame because I feel like when you would see this hung, this fabric would look and feel thick and lush, whereas it can't read like that in this situation. But I loved the safe Disney like woman, that princessy vibe that this had. It feels very like beautiful and sexy, but like, yeah, I don't know, just classic. It's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't see this done very well very often.
No, it was a good choice. I think she did a good job.
And the color story was great too.
Color story was great.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on.
Yeah, let's go into this fully prepared.
So, this is Veronica Green. And that's all I have to say about it.
Okay, I have a question for you.
What's up?
What do you think, if this is the hair she like woke up because she slept in, what is she saying that her like pre-sleep hair looks like?
Probably still this.
Oh,
It's
fucking.
like it's one of those things where, kind of similar to Scarlett's, like it's almost not messy enough to read.
Who in their right minds is like, yeah, I'm gonna wear a puffer jacket on the RuPaul's Drag Race runway.
I'm gonna wear a puffer jacket that's supposed to be a sleeping bag, but like it doesn't go down to the floor. I'm gonna belt it around the waist and the wrists. I'm gonna wear rubber boots with it, and then I'm just gonna do this incredibly smeared, smudged, half-assed makeup because I have a plan for my second look, which I think is gonna save this, and go down the runway like this. I think we both thought that this was going to be a reveal of some kind. We thought it was going to open up into something. It did not. There was a lot of story behind this, but I don't think any of it came through.
No. You know what comes through? Fucking Joker makeup.
Yeah, this is the sequel to the Joker that nobody asked for.
I'm like staring at the computer screen so stressed and like, how did you... Oh. No one's makeup looks like this when they slept in it. No one's hair looks like this unless you went to the festival looking a damn fool. Wow.
Yeah, this is just missing so many marks. And it's funny that like her eyes appear to be closed in the screen grab because it looks like that's how she got dressed.
What? Okay. If there was a reveal under it, what would save it for you?
That's a big ask. I think because she was talking about this being sort of like a festival look, if there had been some sort of like ratty sort of like band like a tank top and like booty shorts or something like that, something that was just like clothes that you look like you'd partied really hard in.
Yeah.
I feel like that is the only way, like doubling down on the narrative and being just like, so this is my character, these are the choices that she's made, like this is
Garden
the route
Plaza's comment.
Which one? I hope she was booted for this?
No,
Or
tearing off
tearing
her
off her
skin.
skin and becoming a different person would have saved it. I mean, you're not wrong.
The hate that our audience has
I am
for
trying
her.
to be as kind as I can and talk about the way that this garment is styled and fit to her body and the choices that were made and not directly attack her. But
Oh, choices were made.
choices were in fact made, and I don't think any of these choices have a strong enough backing in their execution to justify how bad this looks.
Okay, the one nice thing I can say about it is she really, really sold a walk. Like, she had a good walk for this.
Yeah. That's about it. That's all we can say. The walk was the best part of the garment.
All right, I guess now we're into our design challenge.
Into round 2. So, and I would like to preface before we get like into these looks, like they were making garments Like, granted, Drag Race gives you like a corset and a hoop skirt, I think, as something that you can work off of. But they were working off like tents and sleeping bags and like rubber and like really hard to work with materials. So I think that alone, like, they all deserve quite a bit of credit for what they were able to come up with, because a lot of it looked like finished garments, and these are not like your standard four-way stretch fabrics that they were working with.
We saw a lot of pattern making and like mindful sewing in this challenge, which was fun because I think we're used to the narrative of no one can do this here. Yeah, so that was fun to watch.
Yeah, we've kind of shifted away in at least the U.S. Drag Race of like seeing a lot of the process of the sewing, and I feel like we got a lot of that in this episode. But back to the look itself. We are with Crystal Versace once again in this spiky corset dealio. I think this is good. This is giving me Aquaria's like superhero runway.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing at all. I think, again, she's in green.
Yes, you're right. Oh my goodness.
I think we may have found her color. I think the proportions in this are really good. The just like how big the spikes are, how much they come off of her body. The way that there's kind of like an imbalance between the upper part and the lower part, that's kind of like tiered little like Tinkerbell type skirt, and then we just get leg into a nude pump. She also has very long nails on. I don't love the hair. I also don't love the blue lip. But as far as the like a garment and this being a very strong silhouette goes, I think this is a really strong look.
Yeah, the way that she's pulled it all together from being this like glossy holographic alien with the cool contacts and the great white eyebrows, and the hair was perfect for it. Yes.
The Super Better says it looks like it hurts to wear, which is always very fashion. And that is absolutely correct. That is not just fashion, that is also drag.
On the second watch through, I did hear her say, like, this is poking me everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Because she said it was made with tent poles, which is, yeah, kudos. It's a good design. And I think that, was someone saying they couldn't tell if it was clever or lazy in the episode?
There was definitely some shade where it's just like, I made a garment, you just like glued stuff to a corset.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, a fair assessment. I mean, if you want to be elitist about it and be just like, a garment is only a real garment if you've like drafted the entire pattern, sewed the entire thing from scratch. But this,
Sure.
I feel like this is a design challenge, and outside of that, it's a like Drag Race is a garment construction. Like when they have design challenges, it is garment construction, and that opens it up to being a whole wider world than just sewing. So I think that this is entirely valid as, you know, something that she made and she came up with.
Yeah. I think, too, it's, like, important to know your limitations, know what you can do, and what's not going to make you look, like, goofy and, like, not happy with what you did. And
An
it's
example
like,
of which we will see.
Yes, exactly. And if doing something simpler means you will finish it and it will look beautiful and represent you well, then that is what you should do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And 3D Put is saying, like, also what you can do with the time. They have
Yeah.
very limited time with these challenges, and I agree with you. My mind is always like, it is better to do something like simple and clean than it is to like overreach so far that it just ends up falling apart for you.
Yeah. Yep. That gives me anxiety when I see them start to do that shit.
Like, it's too much. But speaking of not too much, we are back with Kitty Scott Claus in this Barbarella fantasy. She really lucked out with her material.
Yes. Yes.
This looks like a drag costume, and I mean that as a compliment. It looks fun. I like the sort of like vintage Jetsons aesthetic to it. I do like the asymmetrical sleeve on it. Again, it is simple, it is clean, and I think it is successful for what it is. I think she really was able to make this material work for her, and her idea for the garment was quite good.
Yeah. Yeah, a big part of it, I think, is that she got so lucky with pulling this. Um, but it's very cute. I wish we could see the wig better because when they would flash by it during the critiques or to tell her she was safe, it's a really nice wig.
Yeah, there's a lot of like braiding detail and I think it's a like a lavender rooted wig. Like I don't think the
Ooh.
root is it like a darker blonde or like a gray. I think it is like a purple tinge, which is a fun touch.
And made herself a handbag to go with it, which is always a great move.
You know, we love an accessory, but that's
Yep.
one of those things where it's just like it reads drag, and I think this is something that Kitty's done quite successfully. Is like she knows the character and the story that she's going for, and like has thought about those details. So even if the garment isn't incredibly complex, there's still a full look and a full sort of character with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's
Also,
so
her
cute.
confessionals are everything.
Oh, here we go.
I believe that
Oh,
River Medway was robbed this episode. I think she did a really good job. I really like this. I wish the proportions were a little bit different. I wish the neckline was just slightly higher so it elongated her torso just a touch. But this like airline hostess, this sort of like vintage aesthetic is something that I obviously love. The little like pillbox hat that she made out of paper. I think this is a great look, and I think she deserved a lot more credit this episode than she got.
I feel like if they did a live action current version of the Jetsons, I
Oh
think
yeah,
we would see looks like this. This gives me such 60s futuristic visions.
yes. This also reminds me a little bit of some of the costumes in The Fifth Element.
Oh, totally.
And it also, like, this gives me, again, this is something that I've said about River, and I mean this is the deepest of compliments. Like, this gives me such strong Lucinda Mew vibes.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, it absolutely does.
Like, as soon as she turned the corner, I was just like, when did Lucinda get on Drag Race UK?
100%. Yep.
But like the way that she incorporated the pattern into the skirts and the way that each sort of individual pleat has this one of these like designs at the bottom, it's really well spaced out. The little details of the necktie and the little wristbands, the fact that the skirt is short so you just get all of this leg and there's a lot of exposed skin, but it doesn't look like it's disproportionate. Um, Again, is this all stuff that we would be saying if she were not, you know, thin and very light skinned? Quite possibly. I feel like this is a silhouette that would have worked on anyone because of the proportion of where the bust line is. It comes out like just past the shoulder. And I think it's the attention to like knowing her shape that makes this work as well as it does.
Yeah. One thing I really like too is how the shape of the little what'd she call it? She called it a trolley dolly. The little shape of her hat is so perfectly proportionate and parallel in shape to the little wrist cuffs she's made that there's this perfect triangle that's being made that like is the opposite of the triangle of her chest, like her
Yeah.
cleavage, and that's really doing it for me. Those are good lines she's made.
Yeah. There's a couple
Beauty.
comments in the chat about how the shoe could have been different. Um, I don't know if I would have changed the shoe, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I think it works.
She's limited with what she would have brought too, so maybe this was the best match. I mean, if she
Yeah.
had like a cute little lilac colored pump, whew, love
Yeah, I mean,
that.
if she'd made like a shoe cover, if she like glued some of the same fabric to the shoe to make it like a fully cohesive look, that could have been cute. But I don't mind the shoe
Yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah, fully.
All right, charity case. How did you feel about this?
I liked it in that I found it like this something you would see as like a club kid. There was something really sexy and raw about this, and Charity knows how to give off that kind of like dirty, sexy thing. Um, but uh, I don't know. I feel like her aesthetic is to leave things a bit rough and feeling like chaotic like that. And it's hard for me to accept that as like an aesthetic and not as lazy.
I agree. I like seeing this from the front. the first like descriptor words that come to mind are picnic clown, and I really like that.
Yeah.
However, for those of you who haven't seen, the back of this is basically not there. The skirt does not continue past sort of the halfway point. It's just kind of left open, and then her ass is out. It's just kind of like loosely laced up the back, I think. And that to me, like, it didn't read as deliberate, and I think that's the issue that I have with it. If she'd had some sort of time or like the thought to include the like full circle of the skirt but made the back of it look like it was like a cage or something like that, so that there wasn't enough like fabric to continue the entire circle of it or something like that, it just feels like it ends for no real reason.
Yeah, and if she, it, it feels like she made the front silhouette just by building it on the Judy, and then was like, okay, I don't know what to do with the back. The front looks good, but I didn't make a back. I don't know. The other thing too is that she could have justified the no back by making it more like an apron.
Yeah.
And that would have read a lot. Yeah, and still picnic clown would have come through.
Or I can also think like if she hadn't continued the structure of the front of the garment, but like maybe this is just a fabric limitation, but in an ideal world where she had enough fabric to do this idea that I'm about to pitch, like if she'd had it sort of like drape down and like cut under like where her ass is, so it was still exposed, but like the skirt still kind of continued and there was a bit of a train to it or something like that, just so it looked like the back of the garment was finished.
Yeah. But colors, I love these colors together.
Yeah, this is very like pink lemonade. This is a lot of fun. I just wish that there had been the other half of the garment.
Yeah. Yep.
Theresa May! She had a great story for this. That is kind of the only great thing that she had for this. I did not realize until like a little bit later that her arms were painted. I thought that they were gloves, but they are in fact painted, and they don't match the garment. They don't match the red. This just feels rudimentary. Again, I was sad to be as disappointed with Theresa as I was this episode, but this was one of those situations where like there was a really strong concept and a really strong narrative, but the execution just like didn't quite live up to it.
And what Garden Plaza said in the chat is so true. She definitely has a silhouette she likes. We have seen...
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we were complimenting at first that she really knows exactly, you know, where to cut that line off for herself, but it seems like that is her go-to. Also, what a shame, because this fabric is really great in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities with layering over this.
This feels like a sort of like last minute edgy Queen of Hearts Halloween costume.
Yeah. The owl on the cane, for such a dumb thing to pull from the pile, that really worked for me. I was like, if it didn't have that cane, it would be atrocious.
Yeah, there wouldn't be anything to really help her sell her narrative.
Oh,
and when
crap.
she was talking about her idea, like she was talking about like making this eye patch out of these rubber gloves. I was like, oh, this is gonna go somewhere, and then this turned the corner, and I was just disappointed.
Yeah. Okay, so Garden Plaza says what could have elevated this, and I think Kraft has made a great suggestion there, that a keyhole heart cutout or even just like a teardrop cutout there, giving it like a mandarin collar could have been cute. But I think what would have even just started to elevate this would have been being more careful with matching your reds. Reds, I feel like, are something, and blues as well. There are so many variations on it that when they don't match, it looks really amateur to me. Like an amateur eye.
I agree. It's like, oh, well, this is like red enough. And for situations like this, like even the difference between the eye patch, the painted hands, and the garment itself, like you can see that there's enough variation that it looks like it didn't quite make it to the level of saturation that she was hoping for. I agree. Having the keyhole cut out would have been great. I think if she'd had enough of the rubber that she made the eye patch out of and used that for the frill of the skirt instead of continuing it with the fabric that she used, that would have brought a little more cohesion into it. Also made some like arm accessories out of that same material just to bring it around, or even like done the belt out of that instead. Those are some things that come to mind.
I would have liked for her to ditch the eye patch and instead on her cheeks as blush do like the 2 black hearts from her dress. And I know that this isn't anything to do with her, what she's constructed, but I really need her to see that her eyebrows are 2 entirely different sizes. Wow. Really off.
Garden Plaza, they're not gloves. She just painted her arms. Yeah, there were a lot of things that could have taken this to something that looked more elevated and more thought out than I think we got.
Well, I would have liked her hair up too. If you're gonna do a turtleneck.
I feel like the hair also weighs the look down and makes her head look sort of like disproportionate.
Yeah. Yep. And the belt, it's poopy. Okay, here we go.
Scarlet Harlot, in one of 2 fleece gowns or fleece dresses that we saw on the runway. I mean, Lizzie and I were talking about this beforehand. Like, we feel like this is a really clear example of something that works as well as it does because of her being thin and white and blonde. Is it well executed? Does it look like a finished garment? Yes, but this was given quite a bit of praise, and I feel like there were more interesting things done on this runway that should have been praised as well. I don't have a problem with this necessarily, but I don't think that it was as great as they wanted to make us believe that it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy that, she's done things like make sure everything's lining up in good ways. And there was a lot of back and forth in the workroom about the panels she was making for this, and she was very careful to not commit the same mistake we see so many girls make where they make something so tiny and tight that on the day of it doesn't even go on them. So she was smart, gave herself lots of slack on everything. Yeah, so that was cute. But again, my biggest critique for her is that she stays really high key in all her palette and she doesn't have any midtones. She just goes very like dark black contrast in her eye makeup or somewhere, and then everything else is like white, 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 white. And I just need to see her bring more color out in her paint. And yeah, the garment, quite nice. I liked the shoulder thing, but yeah, you said it best.
Yeah, and that, I think the comment on the makeup is interesting because the contestants this week got a visit from Raven, who was giving quite a few of them makeup advice, although coming from Raven, who has been trying to be several different ethnicities. I don't know if I would believe her. Craft Center makes an interesting point as well. Like they say that it's weird because they've read other queens for not using enough stuff from the things provided. Like this is just
Oh, yes, that's a great point.
So I think that if this were to be as, highly praised as it was, I would have liked to have seen it either be like in a more difficult to use material or more elements of different materials from everything that they had, but this was just kind of like a blanket or something, and
Yeah.
it just became a dress.
Yeah, like you got a square of fabric, that production picked out, so you can't even really be complimented for how nice the palette is. Oh, you look.
This. Apparently, I look like Elwood's lesbian lover.
So they did not almost ever show the full body of this, and I really, really needed us to be able to talk about the shoes. So.
All right. Well, let's start at the top and work our way down. Because I'm gonna need a moment before we get to the shoes.
How many curly bob orange wigs do you think she's brought?
Several.
I hope, yes, I hope that that's not all of them.
Yes, this screenshot deserves an Emmy for you, Lizzie. For all of the work. For all of the work that you've done, you deserve an Emmy. Or a Streamy. I don't hate this as much as the judges did. My biggest problem with it is that it is, like, she made the choice to make these ropes sort of like fringe things and did not find a way to finish them. Like, all we see is frayed edges and a raw sort of like interior of climbing rope, and that to me is so distracting that I think it takes away from the idea of what this garment was meant to be.
Yeah, I feel like if she was going to have these frayed edges, it needed to be leaned into a bit more. You can't make it look like a mistake. Like when these kinds of things happen, you don't just go like, "Oh, I'm just going to leave it there." You got to lean into it. And I'm noticing too, I think just here, that this asymmetry in the blue rope on the top is really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, had she been able to make that blue go all around sort of the cup of the bra and conceal some of those edges, I think that would have helped to clean it up a little bit, used it as kind of like detailing around the top of the corset as well. What she would have done with the fringe over the skirt, I don't know. I kind of also almost wish that she'd like shredded the skirt to make it look like fringe as well, so it continued in the same kind of texture going down, because you have this sort of like rope over top of this solid fabric that to me doesn't feel quite as cohesive. And then we get down to the shoes.
Oh, God.
What are these shoes?
They're so bad. They're really bad. And we saw a couple of these kind of style of pumps, these super platform, Minnie Mousey kind of pumps that everybody used to wear. And yeah, I feel like it really dates the look. Okay, and when the judges were talking about this look, I was dying at RuPaul being like, "Well, it's lovely rope work." I'm like, "What is rope work?" No, it's not a thing. You can't just make rope work a thing.
Rope work is like a bondage term, so like unless RuPaul is into shibari.
I was like, "This ain't rope work. This is hot glue work."
Yeah. And lovely is a stretch. But like that's another thing that she could have done. I don't know if like it's a specific skill set to be able to do like body harnesses and like shibari stuff. But like had she done that with the rope, that would have been incredible.
Oh yeah, even like something that just sort of, I don't know, would it be sort of appropriative or disrespectful to make something in that style without really knowing much about it and at least trying to like do a spoof of it, your own take?
I don't know. I feel like in order to do things like that, you have to at least know enough of the technique to execute it properly and safely. So maybe not like shibari specifically, but I've seen quite a few things in fashion use the idea of at least like rope body harnesses and the like.
Yeah.
So
Well, even
possibly.
if you know how to like make a friendship bracelet, damn, you could have macrameed something around
Yeah.
yourself like that, you know. Knots
Braid
are
it.
knots are knots. Yeah.
Yeah. Use some of that Girl Scout knowledge. I don't know.
Well, if anything, I was just excited to see it wasn't a great look because we would get to see her lip sync again. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and she absolutely lip synced.
Oh, she
Like
sure
Vanity
did.
Milan is a wonderful performer, and as unfortunate as it is that she was in the bottom, like we got to see her perform again, and that was great. Okay, Day in our second tartan dress, and also this raincoat, which I think it was said well. Like this feels like two different looks, and I wish she committed to one of them more. And I wish it had been the coat, because I think the coat is really well done.
The coat has big Balenciaga energy.
Yeah.
I feel like she really could have made this a lot more high fashion. And the way that that skirt is buckling, I've had cheap garments that have done that, and it's really annoying. So I'm sure that wasn't fun to walk in.
Like it is just kind of a tube dress. Also, the contrast of the yellow against this sort of like red, blue, green of this particular tartan hits an uncomfortable place for the eye, I think. There's just so much yellow surrounding it that also with the blonde hair, you sort of lose her head and her face and you just focus in on the cuffs of the jacket and this little dress. I think that like had she even just like made a belt out of this fabric and like belted the jacket closed and had a bit more of a train to it, I think it would have read as a stronger look. I think this is good. I think she did a really good job with it. I just wish that the jacket was featured more because I think it's the strongest part of this outfit.
Yeah, she is giving me strong like 80s woman. So I love the attitude that this was delivered with. But I am going to draw our attention back down to the Minnie Mouse platform shoes. Hate them.
Yeah, it's the platformed pump that, in a weird way, it like rounds out the foot and like makes it look like there is more foot than there is. So it kind of shortens the leg, in a way. If this had been like a flat to the ground, like nude, patent leather pump or something that looked like it had the same kind of like raincoat quality as the jacket, I feel like that would have been fun. Or even just like a black.
Yeah. Oh my God, I would have loved it too if she like had wet hair for this and made the rain jacket make a bit more sense or brought like
Yeah.
a drag story to it.
That would have been great. This would have been one of the few situations where I think wet hair would have worked. Also, Garden Plaza, this is absolutely Jubilee from the X-Men. And if she'd had like a black bob, she could have just cosplayed.
But I feel like the Super and Better says they were trying to figure out why this red is superhero, but also just look at her face, look at her hair. It is literally how you see these super sexy heroines in comic books drawn.
It's
Like,
this.
yeah, it really is. Her face has these really like hard proportions that I think make her look like a comic book drawing.
It's one of those things where it's like, riding a fine line, and I think a lot of drag performers, particularly like AMAB drag performers, because of the way that like bone structure works, a lot of them that paint like can get to this point of like real severity in their femininity because they angle everything up and they have a lot of more like harder lines rather than like softer, rounder shapes, which are things that read traditionally feminine. And I think that's something that has been portrayed a lot in comic books because these women are meant to be sort of like strong and powerful, and angles generally read in that way more so than like soft curved shapes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Woo woo!
Now, for those of you at home, I want you to not be afraid. It's just Veronica Green. However, what the actual fuck happened here?
Homophobia is what happened.
This is disrespectful to rainbows.
Yeah.
And I do not know how else to go about it other than saying that there really isn't anything redeeming about this. I will say the first time I saw this, it reminded me of like Jimbo's rainbow look from the first episode of Canada's Drag Race. But done with like scrunched up like candy wrappers and then some like kites glued to the back. This did not do her any favors. This is the case that we were talking about where she tried to do a lot more than she had the time for and was potentially capable of, and it ended up looking like a bunch of disjointed elements that do not seem cohesive in any way, shape, or form.
She grabbed two kites and then put them on the back and said to RuPaul, I've got a dragonfly concept. No, you don't. you are sticking 2 kites to your back and desperately flailing for something that it looks like. And there's no way that these don't read like 2 kites typed to your back.
Yeah, nothing has been done to the kites
Also,
to make them look like anything else.
no, and you remember this is the equivalent of that craft that you did in grade 1, where you would take a little piece of tissue paper on the end of a pencil and put a dot of glue on it and put it on paper and then do the next one. That's what she did. She did children's crafts on the runway.
She did. She did do children's crafts on the runway, and it just became like there's so much conflicting pattern here and so much conflicting color that it is hard to find the person wearing the garment in this.
All I can focus on is the one high contrast thing, which is her like awkward pose through her shoulders. That's the only thing that pops out to me, and I just can't stop focusing on her shoulders.
And it looks like the kites are like pushing them forward.
Yeah.
It looks like she's sort of like hunched in an uncomfortable way. I also think that it was interesting. I think it was Graham who said it. Like, there's a lot of like bright colors here and a lot of sort of like potential movement and shape and silhouette, but like the delivery of it was also quite somber and like quite dark. And you know, she had a little breakdown about the difficulties of her past year and dealing with depression and the like, but it felt a little bit manufactured for the sake of trying to save the garment, to me personally, because there's no real way to combine those two things without it coming across as unintentional. Like, this was something. You know what? You're right. Gidges, I don't know anything about modeling. I wouldn't know. But it just didn't work. I'm trying to be like considerate of the situation and as understanding as I can, but I cannot find any redeeming qualities on what this was. It looked like there were, you know, childhood crafts. There was using every sewing technique that she has learned in the year off that she's had and putting them together in a garment without any real thought as to how they would go together or how they would work. And the silhouette does not do anything for her body. If you're going to have this big shape coming out from the back of you, then you are going to add all of these textures on top of your torso and like lose any sort of shape or definition there, and then have this big ruffled skirt that comes out from it that just makes this strange A-line hourglass. It's bad on technical levels as well as like aesthetic levels.
And let's talk about the idea that, you know, if we're wanting to deliver some like feminine length and stuff, why are you gonna stump off your arms with black hands up to there? You know, that's odd to me. That just really gave this shortening look. And the judges aren't stupid. They know that this is bad. They know that you didn't do a good job. Don't try to convince them with this, like you said, this kind of manufactured, what felt like it was being used in this moment to justify a bad outfit. Like, you could have had all these things happen in the bad year and also be able to say, yeah, I have eyes. I can see this is bad. He. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like when you can't see that you aren't up to snuff with everybody else, that means that you have a very low chance of ever improving. And for her to be surprised she went home, to me says she thought in some world she was winning this. And that scares me that we're never going to see an improvement from her.
Yeah, I genuinely hope that we do. I want to see improvement from every contestant that comes through, particularly like a drag reality show. But she did seem to come back in to this competition with this level of expectation that she was just going to pick up from where she left off and like make it all the way to the end, it seemed, or at least that's how it was presented to me. But coming out with something like this and then saying she was the only queen on season 2 that didn't have to lip sync, despite that being because she went home halfway through because she got COVID and couldn't go back and continue filming. Like, there's a delusion there. There's a delusion there, and you know, hopefully things have changed for her and she's gotten a bit more grounded in reality. But this was not a very flattering presentation of her, either aesthetically or personality-wise. And I know that's not what we're critiquing here necessarily, but you know, it's something that we saw.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the end of the slides.
Is the end of the slides. We made it all the way through, and this was our last single season dress code because next week Canada's Drag Race season 2 starts.
Ooh, next week we might have some lightning round outfits. You never know. It could be a lot.
If they do a fucking 3-look right off the bat, Canada's Drag Race on top of this, we're gonna have to like double the length of this stream.
You know what? If that happens, we'll get one of those clocks that chess players use.
Oh my god.
And I'll just make sure that we like tick at every one and it can't go past a certain point or the stream ends.
Yeah. We only get to as many looks as we get to.
Yeah.
Tune in to see how many we find.
Cool. Well, we did a great job of filling up our time exactly today.
Look at us. We're getting so good at this.
Ooh, I know.
It's the blazer. It's my April O'Neil blazer.
It really keeps things organized. I was intimidated, so I made sure I did
Keeping you on your
good.
game, Lizzie. Make sure you don't fuck this up for the rest of us. Well, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. Thank you again to you, Lizzie, for all that you do.
Oh, thank you, Amara.
Speakeasy. And until next week, we will see you. Bye.
Okay.